Fable just had a massive information dump that completely changes how we are looking at this reboot, and if these leaks about the open world scale are true, Xbox might finally have its heavy hitter for 2026. Now, we have been waiting for Playground Games to show us something real, something concrete for what feels like forever. Since that first teaser where the frog got eaten by the fairy, it's been relatively quiet, aside from a few cinematic trailers that didn't really tell us how the game plays. But this new leak? This is the smoking gun we've been waiting for, because it finally sheds light on exactly how ambitious this project really is. You know, usually when we hear open world these days, it's kind of a scary term. We all have that fatigue from games that are just big for the sake of being big, empty maps filled with fetch quests. But the leaked details here, specifically the 29 pieces of concept art that dropped earlier this week, are painting a picture of something that isn't just large, it's dense. And that is a very important distinction. We are talking about a map that insiders are claiming rivals the scope of The Witcher 3, but with the visual fidelity of a Forza Horizon game. And that combination right there, that is what has me sitting up in my chair. Because if there's one thing Playground Games knows how to do, it's building environments that look absolutely photorealistic. Now, the leak specifically points to a release window of late 2026, and I know since we are already in January 2026, hearing late 2026 means we still have a bit of a wait ahead of us. But honestly, this is probably the smartest move they could make. You have to look at the landscape right now. We know Grand Theft Auto 6 is looming over the entire industry like a massive shadow. No one, and I mean no one, wants to release their open-world game anywhere near that monster. Positioning Fable as the big holiday 2026 title gives them breathing room. It gives them a chance to not just be another release, but to be the release of the holiday season. And with that being said, this final year of development is likely being used to wrestle with the engine. We have to remember, this game is being built on ForzaTech. That is a racing game engine. It was built to make cars look shiny and drive fast on asphalt, not for third-person melee combat, magic systems, and complex NPC interactions. There have been rumors floating around for years that the team was having a hard time adapting the engine for an RPG. It's like trying to use a Formula 1 car to go grocery shopping. Sure, it's powerful, but it's not exactly built for the task. But this leak suggests they might have finally cracked the code. The scale mentioned in this report is what really gets me thinking about the potential here. If they're going for a massive open world, the biggest challenge isn't the size, it's the traversal. In Forza, you're driving at 200 miles per hour, so a big map feels smaller. In an RPG, you're walking, maybe riding a horse. If the world is too big, it becomes a walking simulator. But the leaked art shows locations like Hamlet and Bloodstone that look incredibly detailed, hinting at a density that suggests they are leaning heavily into what made the original Fable games special: the charm, the secrets, the weird little interactions you find off the beaten path. So, you're probably wondering, what does this actually mean for the gameplay? Well, if the world is as big as they say, it means the morality system, which is the bread and butter of Fable, needs to be scaled up too. You can't just have a massive world with a shallow good versus evil mechanic, it needs to impact the world itself. If I burn down a village in one corner of this massive map, does it affect the economy in a city on the other side? That is the level of depth we need if they're going to justify this development time. And this brings up a really interesting point about the tech smoking gun I mentioned earlier. The leak talks about the lighting and the foliage density being unlike anything we've seen on the Series X so far. We know Playground Games are wizards with vegetation and dynamic weather. Just look at the storms in Forza Horizon 5. Now, imagine that technology applied to a dark, magical forest in Albion. Imagine a thunderstorm rolling in while you're fighting a Balverine, and the mud physics actually affect your movement. That is the promise of using the ForzaTech engine, and it's why I'm willing to wait until the end of this year if it means we get that level of fidelity. But you have to kind of put your tinfoil hat on for a second here. Why is this leaking now? Usually whenever there's smoke, there's fire, and with the Xbox Developer Direct having just taken place yesterday, this timing is no coincidence. Leaks of this magnitude usually happen when a project is hitting a major marketing beat or milestones are being reviewed. It feels like Xbox knows they need a win. They have had a rough go of it lately, with some of their big exclusives not landing the way they hoped. Fable is their golden goose. It's a beloved franchise with a ton of nostalgia attached to it. They cannot afford to mess this up. Now, a huge part of this leak also touches on the Witcher-like mechanics. This is really exciting because The Witcher 3 is basically the gold standard for modern open-world RPGs. If Playground is taking cues from CD Projekt Red about quest design and world building, that is a match made in heaven. The original Fable games were great, but let's be honest, they were a little simple by modern standards. Bringing in that grit, that depth of storytelling, and mixing it with the classic British humor of Fable, that is a recipe for something special. However, there is a risk here. We have seen so many studios try to chase the massive open world trend and fail. They focus so much on the square footage of the map that they forget to put anything interesting in it. Ubisoft has been guilty of this for years. We don't need 1,000 collectibles scattered across a map the size of a real-life country. We need meaningful content, and that is where the worry creeps in. Can a studio that has only ever made racing games pull off a narrative-driven RPG of this scale? It's a huge pivot. And honestly, firmly planting the flag in late 2026 also points to this being a true next-gen showcase. By the end of this year, the Series X will be a mature console. This game needs to look the part. It needs to be the game you show your friends to justify why you bought the console. If it comes out and it looks like a last-gen game with a shiny coat of paint, people are going to be disappointed. But everything in this leak suggests they are pushing the hardware to its absolute limit. So yeah, the timeline makes sense. If they tried to push it early in 2026, it would likely be rushed. And we all know what happens when you rush a massive open-world RPG. You get Cyberpunk 2027 at launch. Nobody wants that. I'd rather get into the holiday season and get a polished, bug-free experience than get a broken mess. It is also worth noting that this leak isn't coming from some random forum post. The concept art looks legit. When you see assets this detailed, you have to pay attention. It creates this picture of a game that is finally coming together after what clearly was a rocky development start. We heard the stories about them scrapping work and restarting. That's normal in game dev, but it's scary for fans. This leak is the first sign that they are past the hurdles and are now in full production mode, sprinting towards that finish line. So, looking at the big picture, this is huge news for Xbox fans. It confirms that the project hasn't been scaled back. If anything, it's grown. They aren't playing it safe. They're swinging for the fences. And honestly, that's exactly what they need to do. You don't revive a legendary franchise like Fable just to make a good game. You do it to make a generation-defining game. But again, until we see raw gameplay, uninterrupted, HUD on, someone holding a controller, we have to keep our expectations in check. CGI trailers are nice, concept art is exciting, but the proof is in the pudding. So yeah, Fable is aiming for late 2026. The world is massive and the tech is pushing boundaries. It's scary, it's exciting, and it's exactly the kind of news we needed to hear. That's gonna wrap it up with this video, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. Are you hyped for a holiday 2026 release, or did you want it sooner? Let me know down below. Like the video, subscribe if you know what he's on, and until next time, this has been Tuzo, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.